Hi, my name is Sean Stevens, and this is,
Heather Stevens.
and we're here today to talk to you about a new project that is starting. It's actually a project that's been around for a while, but there's an opportunity here. And this is actually two organizations working together. One, a registered Canadian charity called Reachout to Africa, from Canada, obviously, and another, a registered not-for-profit, which is called
Kulu.org.
Yes. And these two organizations are working together to support orphans, vulnerable children, and youth in South Africa. So, what is the problem?
The problem is, Sean, we've got 3.7 million orphans in South Africa, and that is 20% of all the children. And of all those children, 8,000 of them are child heads of household. That means there's no adult at home.
No adult at all?
No adult at all in the home. Children looking after children. And the other problem is that 50% of children in South Africa who start school never complete high school, and the rate is much higher for orphans. And that leads to 52.2% of all youth who are unemployed. And so we've got large social problems as a result of these orphaned families.
It's obviously going to create a problem around the world. It's going to create environmental issues as people and social issues and potential wars and all sorts of other things. And with the absence of education, the absence of jobs, that causes all sorts of negative world social impact.
That's right. Exactly.
So, and I mean, one of the key problems here is, of course, that in North America, we're not used to having a lot of vulnerable children, a lot of orphans in particular. In fact, we only have 400,000 in North America of foster kids. And in fact, there are only, I think it's 50,000 orphans. Whereas in South Africa, 1 out of every 5 houses is actually made up of orphans. Is that not correct?
That's right. 20% of the kids are orphaned in South Africa.
Which is amazing. And what's interesting is we tend to think as North Americans of the solution being, well, let's start an orphanage in Africa and that'll fix it. But the orphanages that we're used to, sort of from the 100 years ago idea, those won't work anymore because, in fact, that would mean that every 5th house was, in fact, an orphanage. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
There just aren't enough buildings to house all the children, so we're trying to keep them into their extended family homes.
Right. That makes sense. So what is it exactly that you do?
Well, we provide psychological and social support to orphans and to vulnerable children, and these are very emotionally wounded kids. We provide learning environments in which they can develop their skills, and we're trying to give these kids a new family by making connections between us and the work that we do, with other kids who can support them, with youth that we are training in the communities to support them, and within their school environments.
Interesting. That's a wonderful mission that you have. So how have you been doing it so far?
We start by approaching the schools, and we start clubs called Hope Clubs in the schools. The schools identify children in the schools who are orphaned, and they recommend them for these clubs. We run there's about 8 of them right now, but we've gone up to 40 before, and we're planning to go to 40 again this year. And we're working with about 2,500 kids a month. So in each school, we've got 80 to 100 orphans just in the clubs, and that's not all of them.
So once you've identified the kids in the clubs, and so you do about 2,500 a month, you have gone up to that in the past.
Yeah.
The next step is what?
Well, the next step is that we refer the most needy of those children to camps, and we take them away to a camp once a year for a week. And during that camp, we do psychosocial support programs. We get them to talk, we do counseling, and we register them for a referral system so that we can put them into social service support processes in the communities.
And you also run programs, is that correct? So
That's right.
And what are those programs? Describe them, just a few of them.
We have teen mums clubs because we've got a lot of orphans who are teen mums that are 14, 15-year-old girls with children who don't have people at home. We have Brothers for Life, which is street kids, boys who are working and living on the streets. We have Youth Skills, which are boys and girls who are having difficulty in school because they're from extremely poor families or they don't have resources at home, and so they drop out of school. And we have girls' clubs where we work strictly with girls, helping them do homework, helping them with some of the social problems that they have, doing counseling, just to try to keep them in school. In addition to that, we also provide them with clothing. We have a clothing bank And at camps, we provide them with food and clothing and other necessities so that when they go home, they have those things.
That's amazing. So, how many kids have you actually impacted so far? How many?
Well, for a number of years, from 2011 to 2014, we were working with 2,500 kids a month. We had a project that was funded by a donor, and the donor project ended, and we dropped last year to 600 kids a month. But this year we've gotten government funding, and we're going up to 5,000 because we're going to be working in 40 schools. In the future, we can go up to as many young people as we can manage to get together and train.
So it could be, I mean, you could get to every child, but obviously you could get to many more than you're currently getting
Many
to,
more.
given the systems and processes that you've put in
That's
so
right.
far.
And we have the access to the children in schools. That's really the key, is that the schools know us and want us to help.
And so you've helped children gain skills, you've helped them gain
Yeah.
purpose and reason, you've helped support their families through all sorts of those skills and through obviously not being on the street and doing other things, and you've provided them with a potential future moving
That's right.
forward.
That's right.
Amazing. So what are your plans now?
Well, our plans are that we can help and want to help thousands more orphans and vulnerable children. We want to train more youth leaders because what we're doing is using local youth leaders to work with the kids. And so, but we need to train them. And we also want to do skills development in the youth because oftentimes kids who are dropping out of school are too old for the system. They age out of the system over 18, and then they can't go back to school, and they have no hope for employment. By giving them skills such as carpentry, welding, beadwork, and so on, we can give them skills that they can earn a living for themselves and their families.
So in terms of where you stand today, how else could we help?
We have right now a very narrow window of opportunity to purchase the property that we've been using for our camps so that we can continue the work. It's called Ikukunyeni Retreat and Camping Center. And the name Ikukunyeni means the place of light, which is quite apropos to our situation. So far, we've managed to raise $200,000. Our goal is $1 million, and we're urgently needing to raise that money because the people that own the property want to sell it, and they are older, they're retiring, and they want to leave. And they've given us a very short period of time to raise the money and purchase the land.
So what do you need this land for exactly? What does it have on it?
Well, on it there's a camping facility which has accommodation for 100 kids at a time. It has kitchen and food areas that we can prepare food. It has all sorts of indoor recreation facilities, a dining room, and so on, sports field, obstacle courses, zip lines, hiking trails, swimming pool, and it has a lovely guest house where we can create a business. Well, there is a business already on the property which will continue and that already is producing about $100,000 a year. And so what we're hoping to do is to increase the capacity of the guest house because the older couple has not been advertising it. And we hope to increase the usage of the camps, including our usage of the camps. And on top of all that, we can create some more sustainable businesses on that property. It's 256 acres, which is a lot of land. And there is room there for more for farming projects, honey production, water bottling. There's good water support sources on the land, and youth skills training. And the idea is to use the land as best we can to train youth to do all these things, as well as to produce an income for this work that we do.
Interesting, remarkable. And there's also a guest house you were saying, and this is actually an opportunity, if I understand correctly, that people could actually come visit. So if you were to become a donor, you could actually go and spend time with kids and work with kids. So if an NGO or an organization or a church or something was to be part of the donorship program or help with this, you could actually go and see where the money ends up. And that the guest house is actually very, very close to a safari, to which safari?
Kruger National Park, which is the biggest national park in South Africa.
There's actually an opportunity for a donor to see really where their money is, not to sort of disappear into an organization, but really see exactly where that goes. So, I mean, you really have an amazing thing here. I guess the next step is how can we find you $1 million? That's easy to find, right?
I hope so.
I think you're doing wonderful. Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Sean.